The Walther PDP is the first handgun where I dry fired it, didn't like the way it dry fired, but then went to the range and shot it and realized, wow, I really like this gun. This is the first gun that's ever done that for me. And I think that's actually saying something about it. But I do have a couple of bones to pick about the Walther PDP, and I wanted to talk about a couple of things that not very many people have talked about in their video. If you see anything in today's video that you would like to check the prices on, it'll be the very first link in the description. That link will also be pinned in the comments. And over there, you'll be able to find everything that we're talking about in today's video. We're gonna talk about a lot of aftermarket stuff for this. This is actually available in 5 different sizes. They have the compact with the 4-inch barrel. They have a compact with a 5-inch barrel. They have the full size with a 4.5-inch barrel, which is the one that we have here today. They have one with a full-size grip and a compact 4-inch barreled slide, which is similar to like a Glock 19X type deal. And then they have the full-size grip with the 5-inch barrel. And all of them are the exact same price. They have an MSRP of $649. However, I've been noticing that the street price is about $599. Walther didn't send this to me. I actually have never spoken with anyone at Walther. My buddies at Brownells did though, and I want to give a big shout out to them. Thank you for sending this out to let me review it. So one thing you will notice is the design language of the firearm is actually repeated on the box right here with these serrations. But this is a very massive case for this to come in, especially considered of how little things are actually included with this gun. This is a Glock box. And for comparison's sake, I mean, this is a massive, massive box. It's almost like they went a little too far. I think they could have saved some money on the size of the box and actually included more parts in here. This is part of the bone that I want to pick here in a little bit. In the box, however, you got the gun, you got the chamber flag, you got one magazine here that's 18+1. The full-size grips are 18+1. The compact grips are 15+1. You get a second mag here. You get your little reloader right there. You get 2 extra back straps. You get some tools for removing the plate. You get a lock that nobody ever uses. Then back here, you have your instruction manual. That is it. That's a lot of case for very little. It comes with 3 different sized back straps. I believe this medium sized one is the one that's included on it when you buy it. And then you have a smaller one. Then you have one with a beaver tail. I attached the one with the beaver tail because that was the best one for me on finger placement on the trigger. The first thing that came to my mind when I held this in my hand and I took the slide off and all that stuff is that Walther married 3 different guns together. Let me explain. They are using the same kind of silhouette as an HK VP9. I noticed that. I was like, oh, that's fascinating. They kind of have that same feel. They kind of have the same sized bore axis. And as I mentioned earlier, you know what my experience was like with this. The way that you take this apart, you use these 2 guys on each side. You pull back on the slide, pull the trigger, and the slide comes off, which is very similar to how you would take a Glock apart. And then when I got to the internals, it looked very similar to the M&P. They both are using this block in the rear. I mean, yeah, there's a couple of differences, but they look really similar. Not saying they're identical, they just look really similar. And those are just some of the first thoughts that came to my mind. So it is easy to field strip, as you could see. You know, you get your recoil spring in your barrel. As I mentioned, I have the 4.5-inch barrel. Another thing you'll notice about under here is this little spacer thing. That's because all variants of the PDP will use the same exact size recoil spring. They actually have a spacer in here that can be removed, and that's what holds the guide rod in place. Thought that was fascinating. I haven't done a complete disassembly of this yet, but maybe we'll make a video about that in the future. Let me know in the comments if you want to see a full disassembly of this, but it looks kind of weird. Something I've never seen before. We have a full Picatinny mount. Now the texture and the ergos are kind of fascinating and something that I really haven't seen. I guess because I've never owned a Walther, you'll notice some ripples here for your fingers. They do fit quite nicely. You will notice this little ledge right here for your mag release. If you hit it at the wrong spot, you actually can't get your mag out, and that's to prevent holsters from pushing it and ejecting your mag. The texture here looks really good. It actually feels really good. However, there is a bone I want to pick about these in a little bit, and when we cover pros and cons. And you got a little bit of texture right here on the front. I guess if you like to wrap your finger around, I'm not like that. It is very smooth, and beveled under here, but there's nothing really right here for you to grab your finger under. This is your optics cover plate. You take that off to mount another plate to mount an optic. The trigger on this feels really nice. Very easy to get to the wall and then break. And then this is where it gets disappointing. The reset is really weak. So it doesn't push your finger out very good. It's also not very audible, and you really can't feel it in your finger very much. So usually when I do a reset on here, I go past it on accident, and then I got to come back to the wall. And that's a little bit annoying, but we'll talk more about upgrading triggers here in a little bit, but I wanted to show you that. But one thing that does impress me is there's no grinding, there's no grittiness. It is all very smooth. There is kind of like a mechanical clunkiness to it. There's a little bit of play there. So you hit a wall, then you hit a little bit of resistance, and then you hit another wall, and then you break through. So if they could have got rid of that first initial little wiggle, it would make it a lot better. But nonetheless, when you're shooting fast, you don't really feel it. One thing that did impress me is the pull weight. This is one of the lowest factory pull weights that's not a hammer fired gun. Pulled right at 3.5 pounds. Do that again. I'm just holding this trigger blade. I'm not actually helping the trigger, but I pull it at the bottom where I always pull a trigger. Right at 3.6 pounds. So it's very consistent. But there's also a lot more that you need to know about this, because there is something that wasn't in the box that I feel 100% should have been in the box. So as you noticed, as we did the unboxing, there was something that wasn't there. That's typically in all boxes of optics ready handguns. And that is optics plates. That's one of the bones I want to pick about this. They literally don't provide any optics plates for you to mount a red dot to this. And I've never seen that before. And I'm assuming one of the reasons they wanted to do it that way is so that they could offer it for such a low MSRP price. Now they do have this form that you can fill out on their website, and you can request one free optics plate. And that's cool and all. I haven't even filled it out yet. I'm just literally got this gun the other day and went to the range. Now on the request form on the Walther website, when you're requesting your free plate, there's only like 4 options. You can get one for a doctor, which I've literally never heard of that red dot. I think a lot of people in Europe use them. There's a plate for the Trijicon RMR SRO, Holosun 407C, 507C. There's a plate for the Leopold Delta Point Pro, which also works for the Shield RMS. And then there's a plate for the Vortex Viper. That's basically it. Now, I went to their website to see if I could find extra plates to buy. And on their website, there's no OEM plates that I can buy. There is a tab on the website that says plates. And when I click it, it just takes me to where I can buy red dots. So I don't know if that's coming in the future, what have you, right? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. However, there is a company that is making aftermarket plates for these, and I'm probably gonna buy 1 or 2 or 3, but they have 8 different plates, and that's CH Precision. They have a plate for the Aimpoint Acro. They have a plate for the Delta Point Pro, Trijicon RMR CC, Vortex Viper, Holosun 407K and 507K. I will have a video coming on these red dots in the near future. I've been putting a ton of rounds through them. I think I have what I need to make a complete video about those. The Holosun 509T. Now I thought this was very interesting because there's not very many guns that can hold the 509T because it has a very strange mounting platform. And if you like got your optics cut for that, like you're stuck with that forever. So that's kind of cool. I might have to pick one of those up and get a 509T. I wasn't gonna pick up a 509T just because nobody's modular optics fit it, but here we go. They obviously have a plate for the Trijicon RMR, SRO, you know, Holosun 407C and 507C. And then they have a plate for the Romeo 1 Pro. So 8 different plates. They cost $69.95. However, if you want the included hardware, which are the Torx screws, add $5, so you're talking $75 a plate. Although I am very disappointed in Walther for not including any plate, like I really wish they would have at least included an RMR plate. Like that's only the most popular red dot, the RMR and the Holosun 507/407Cs. At least include one plate. There's nothing more frustrating than getting a new gun, wanting to throw a red dot on it and take it to the range, and you can't because you got to fill out a form to get one. Like, come on, people. At least the RMR plate. I do have to applaud Walther though, because they're actually the ones that contacted C&H Precision to create aftermarket plates. So kudos to them for that. The slide is probably something that most people have talked about in their videos. I don't know if anyone has made a slide that has serrations that are as aggressive as this one. They are nice. They feel really good. They're super easy to press check from the front or pull from the rear. I literally have no issues with this. One thing I do love about the slide that I'm really glad that they did is the slide utilizes Glock sights. And I think that's a really good thing. Anytime you can incorporate a different handgun to incorporate something from Glock is always going to be a good thing business-wise, as well as from a consumer standpoint, because Glock sights are the easiest sights to install, bar none. I've changed sights on a lot of guns, M&Ps being one of the hardest because they're really in there. I've broken really good sight tools trying to change sights on an M&P. The thing I like about that is you can get a sight tool and it will work with this, and that's always a good thing because now I can get suppressor height sights if I need some, and I can get all the different variations. So kudos to Walther for utilizing Glock sights. Now I do have a bone to pick about this rear sight. The rear sight on here is adjustable for windage. However, there's this weird little notch on the right side, and I'll get you a close-up of that. It just sticks up, and I don't understand why it sticks up so much compared to the left side. It's like it's out of spec or something like that. I guess it's not a big deal, it's just something I noticed. Now, the texture on this is a little bit weird at first. Remember earlier in the video, I was talking about holding guns at the gun store, then going to the range and realizing it's not what you thought it would be. Well, the same thing occurred with this one. The ergos on the frame felt really good, but the texture, although when I held it like this or held it like this, it felt nice and rough. But when I grabbed it, my fingers were sliding along the front strap in these corners right here. And that was really bugging me. I was like, oh, I don't know how this is gonna work out at the range. Thankfully though, when I went to the range, it was working really well. It took me a little bit of time to get used to this mag release right here with this protector underneath it. That took a little bit of getting used to. There's a few times I went to, hit it and I was hitting the protector and I had to pull my thumb up, to get that out, but it didn't take very long to get used to that. Now, the most important thing about the Walther PDP, in my humble opinion, is the modularity. Now, I don't fully understand it yet. I don't understand if the frame is the serialized part or the slide, or does it have a fire control unit? I can't find a whole lot of information on it, but basically, according to Larry Vickers, they're gonna sell different frames and different slides for this so you can mix and match them any way that you want. You'll be able to take a compact frame and put a 5-inch slide on it if you want, or you can mix and match them. But one of my favorite ones that piques my interest the most is the compact slide on the full-size frame. You might be wondering, well, why on earth would you want a frame, that sits back like this? This is why. So this is my P320 Legion, and I converted it to have a compact slide and a more flush recessed Parker Mountain Machine compensator. Well, it turns out, according to Walther's website, they're working with a lot of aftermarket companies to provide parts for these guns, and Parker Mountain Machine happens to be one of them. And so, since in the future they're gonna have slides available, I figured, hey, I'll just buy a compact slide. I'll get one of those Parker Mountain Machine comps and we'll shoot it and have a flushed comp Walther PDP. I love flush comp guns. So how does this thing perform at the range? As I mentioned earlier in the video, I didn't really have a lot of time to shoot, so I was only able to put like 3 or 4 mags through this. However, I will say this, earlier in the video I was talking about that I didn't like the way that it felt in my hand when dry firing. Thankfully, this feels amazing when you're actually shooting it. It had very little recoil, it felt amazing in the hands, and I was able to hit exactly where I was aiming. The sights are kind of hard to see, the front dot being kind of small. Target acquisition with these irons isn't that great, but like I mentioned earlier, you can swap them out with any Glock sight and you'll be golden. I'm waiting to get sights until I get a red dot mounted on here because I want to see if you can co-witness with the standard height sights. They cut this optic cut pretty deep, so I'm waiting to get a plate, put an optic on it, and see how well I co-witness before I really choose what sights I want to get. but it shot like a dream. I had 0 malfunctions. I was using some Ammo Inc. ammo, and I was using Arms Core 9mm. I think they were 115 grain. They were either 115 or 124 grain. I don't remember. But anywho, shot like a dream. Love it to death. So what about holster compatibility? Unfortunately, because I don't have any other Walthers, I can't tell you if it's gonna be compatible with other Walthers, but I will tell you this, and I brought this up in last week's video on the Shadow Systems. I got one of these Tier 1 concealed MSP holsters, and I have this cool little wedge on the back that they sell, and they just stick on, and it adds like a FUPA right there, kicks it out so that it conceals better. Now this is an IWB holster that's appendix. It also comes with a mag carrier. I just don't have it with me right now. But I've been using this as my testing bench for carry guns. And essentially this holster will fit any gun that has a Surefire X300. So if I put a Surefire X300 on here, fits like a glove. I'm waiting, like I said, I'm waiting to get the red dot. These clips, you might have to readjust them and stuff so they don't hit the red dot, but it does give me a good idea of what it'll feel like to carry. So let's try it out. Had to move my belt buckle. It was getting in the way. This belt's not the best for scooting it to the side. I probably should have scooted it to the other side. This is one of my core essentials belts, but I love these belts, but they're not the best for putting buckles to the side because you get all this extra flappage right here. But yeah, put that there. Yeah, this is the belt right here that's making it kick out. Now, typically I like holsters that have the appendix rig with the sidecar on it, and this one doesn't have it, and it is a thing I don't like about this holster, but it does give me a sense, would this be a gun that I would want to order a holster for? So, fits really nice. I can, present it no problem, reholster, and aside from my belt here, seems to conceal pretty nicely. It does kind of kick out a little bit, but like I said, this isn't my main carry. This is just a good test bench holster. I will have a link over at the build list if this is something you want to pick up for yourself, these holsters. You can see there's still room for the 5-inch slide or an extra compensator on it. Fits like a glove, and like I mentioned, there might be 1 or 2 exceptions, but I've tested this with every handgun that I own that a Surefire will fit on, and this holster works for them. Talking about triggers, there is 3 different triggers that we can get for this. There's currently the one that you can get from Walther directly. There is Overwatch Precision trigger, which I have coming in, and then there's an Apex trigger. Apex and Overwatch Precision have really been cranking down hard lately on newer guns. As an example, with this CZ P10C, the only trigger that you used to be able to get for like 2 or 3 years was from HBI. And I did a video a couple of years ago on this gun and I talked about the HBI trigger, but this one has the Overwatch Precision trigger. And it does feel a little bit different than the HBI in a good way. Well, Apex has recently came out with a trigger for this gun. And if you're not familiar with Apex, Apex has been making Walther triggers for a while. I've never tried one, but whenever Apex makes a trigger, I like to get it because of how much it changed the game on these MMPs. That is beautiful. If you've ever fired an M&P stock trigger, that's amazing. Same thing on my FN509. But I am gonna try and test every single trigger that I can get for this. I'm gonna get all 3 of them, see what I think of them, and do the comparison video in the future. And so that's a good thing, right? Like there's very few guns that have 3 different trigger manufacturers competing with them. Let's go over the pros and the cons of the Walther PDP. Like I said, this is not a full review. This is just the first impressions. Con number 1, obviously it doesn't include any optics plate. At least include the RMR one, guys. I'm just saying. Con number 2, as I mentioned earlier, although that this shoots much better than it feels when I dry fire it, I would really prefer some texture in these corners right here. My knuckles ride on this outside edge, and that's where a lot of the contact is in my grip. I have a lot of contact back here in my palm and a lot of contact in this corner, and they do tend to slide. I'm probably gonna get this thing stippled just to take care of that. Con number 2 is they do have these nice little recesses right here that has all this information, made in Germany and Karl Walther, like a lot of stuff that nobody cares about reading. And why don't you just take this texture and put it right here and put it right here so that we can actually have a ledge for mitigating recoil. Like you can kind of get your thumb in there now, but it would just be much nicer to have it actually textured. Con number 3, it's still lacking a really good reset. Like the reset's See, like it's hard to hear, it's hard to feel. And every time I reset this, I end up going past it by a few millimeters, and then I come back to the wall and then I hit it again. I'm hoping that with the trigger upgrades, I'm hoping they all add a better reset to it. Pro number 1, love the serrations. I don't think I've seen anyone that dislikes the serrations. Pro number 2, I do like the fact that they've integrated this little guard for the mag release. So when you have it in a holster, nothing flat can push against it and release your mag. I've actually experienced that a few times, so that's a good thing. Pro number, where are we at? Are we at 3? We'll just go with 3. I don't remember if I just talked about 3, but pro number 3, I like that you can take it down super easily, similar to a Glock and a CZ P10C. And I like that they made it better because these switches are much easier to pull down than those tiny tabs on Glocks and CZs. Pro number 4, I like the interchangeable back straps. I think that's amazing. Pro number 5, I love that they use Glock sights. Pro number 6, I like that they're forward thinking and they made it modular so that in the future we can change the slides and the frames and do it however we want to make it ours and make it more custom. I like that they're working with aftermarket companies to make their product better. A lot of companies don't like that, especially Glock. I know for a fact that Gaston Glock does not like people modifying his guns because he actually believes that his guns are perfect. And I love Glocks, but they're definitely not perfect. I will never say they're perfect. Pro number 7, the grip texture is good, although it's lacking in a couple of spots, but it's overall a good texture. Pro number 8, it has really good recoil characteristics. Although the bore axis is kind of high, I found it super easy to mitigate recoil when I was at the range, so that's a good thing. And pro number 10, I like the fact that they made these all for about $649 and street price being about $599. I'm sure you might be able to find them even less in the future, maybe. And I will also, like I mentioned earlier, I'll have links for all the places where I can find these guys in stock and hopefully find some promo codes for them and stuff so you can save some money. So that'll be the first link in the description and pinned in the comments below. With all of those things taken into consideration, I do not regret getting this gun. I think it was something good for me to get, something good for me to try that's different. Although it has a few little flaws for me, overall, they're not that big of a deal because they're far outweighed by all the pros of this. And I'm really excited to see what this is gonna be like in the future. And it runs super reliably. But at the end of the day, guys, it really doesn't matter what I think. It matters what you guys think. Let me know down in the comment section if you guys have shot these or if this is something you've been eyeballing in the future. As of right now, 100% recommend them, but we'll see if that changes in the future when we do the deep dive full review. Play Ding Dong Ditch with the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not already, but I love you. You guys stay sexy.